One Step from Eden is the mashup of Mega Man Battle Network coupled together with Slay the Spire, because Slay the Spire became the new Undertale after it came out and every game had to beat it. Not a bad thing, just a thing to note. Move around and use these spell cards you have to evoke effects onto the field. Lightning bolts, shielding, flaming tiles, there's a lot to mention. The gimmick is that every time you use a spell, you have to cycle through to another spell in your library. But the order is randomized, and when you run out, you have to reshuffle the ball and start the process over. There's hundreds to choose from that you're randomly presented and rewarded with after clearing encounters on the progress track towards your area's boss. Other encounters are resting spots and immersions and such. There's a few different zones you traverse in all, but all need to be cleared in a total of 8 times, each zone housing 2 particular bosses that get harder if you encounter them later in the game. Culminate all of this into one big final boss at the end and obtain victory. You're presented with choices after conquering these bosses to finish them off or show mercy and let them go. Different effects occur when you do this. I'll leave out the purpose of it. The speed of the game is critical, but I think it's sort of where it falls short. It's fast. Very fast. Insanely fast. And while this might stimulate the brain of an overactive child, the reaction time necessary for later encounters becomes astronomical if you want to have any measure of survival. This is only being played on the starting default difficulty. You can add additional gameplay modifiers to make it even more challenging if you're a sick fuck. Whilst you can develop your strategy in a dozen different ways, with character selection, different archetypes for them, and the randomized equipment and spells you come across, you'll typically be pretty set on the path given what your starting position will be. Refusing additional spells when given, or simply taking them all as you proceed, are both valid strategies that you can work around. And you can obtain the power to remove spells if you so wish, but it comes at monetary cost to do so. Every spell can also be upgraded in some minor ways or major ways that can affect your pacing on the field. As interesting as a lot of these mechanics are and function, I find it gets particularly marred down when I dissect my character choice enough to realize that spamming my spells infinitely and endlessly without any care as to my positioning or focus seemingly always got me better results than trying to strategically place myself on the field at the right time for the right spell in my hand. Literally mashing between 2 buttons when I'm faced with a tough opponent was a better move than trying to not take any damage, because by the time I tried not to take any damage, I took even more had I just moved around like a complete fucking idiot. It's a bit disappointing, and shit just becomes so frantic later, you don't even have time to think, so why bother? All relation to this game stems from fans who love the Battle Network series, because that's a very strong original lineup of games that's never really had a true comparison until now, I'd wager. But One Step from Eden kind of branches off from it in terms of quality, I would argue, with its randomized layouts and rewards and overall functionality sort of just become annoying to deal with later on, even if you obtain mastery of the game. It stands on its own, but the problem is I can't tell if I can recommend this or not to people who have played similar games and want more, or to people who are looking for something new. But either way, it's not a bad time getting closer to Eden, so don't be too afraid to take the journey on for yourself.